Good morning, all of you, and welcome to a lovely morning in Sweden, in south of Sweden. It is mid-September, or even the end of September, and it's just before 7 o'clock in the morning. And I have gone out in the garden. Well, not yet in my garden. I am standing outside, having a look at the scenery. This is what I see from my window when I go up in the morning. So I was planning on doing a live stream here already yesterday from my garden, talking a bit about my mulched garden. Hello, Cynthia, nice to see you. But yesterday I was kind of busy with this little project. You see, I have built a new greenhouse in my garden. Good morning. It's a bit difficult in this channel because I never know what time it is where you watch. So it's nearly 7 o'clock in the morning in Sweden. It could be night time, it could be whatever, where you are in the world. And I have recently woke up. You see, I look a bit tired and I have not yet talked, so my voice is a bit tired too. But I think this is it's almost 11 p.m. Yeah, I should be in bed. You can come back, watch later on, Cynthia. Well, I am not that well prepared since it's very early, as you understand, but I think this may be the best time for me to go out in the garden because the garden simply looks very, very beautiful. So even though I don't feel that beautiful myself this time of morning, I will go out and stay out in the garden a few moments along with you. I have put the breakfast on the table for the children on the way to school, and their dad's just waking up. Dad is just waking up and will take care of all the rest. Yeah, it's very fallish with the fog, and we didn't have any like wood in the house this morning, but otherwise we or I would have made a fire as well, so there would be smoke from the chimneys, but not today. It's not very, very cold yet, and when I check the weather app in my phone, this is going to be like the last sunny day for quite a while now. So we had a beautiful day yesterday, and that was why I never ended up with a live stream, unfortunately. Simply because I spend my day on working on my new greenhouse. We can go to the greenhouse so that you can see it. I have published at sarabakmo.com the first in a series of blog posts. Hi from New York, Barbara, about this greenhouse project, and I'm going to finish today taking pictures at the greenhouse as it looks right now. It's crazy you watch from so many countries. This has been my summer project. I will soon get to the mulching thing, but it's so nice to finally show you. So this is, I have made this all myself. No friends or husband who helped me. So yesterday I made like benches indoors, and I finished up here on the roof. Looks really beautiful, I think. And all of it, thank you Cynthia, from windows that I have collected over the years. And why I could actually do this is because I bought myself a saw this summer. And it's like a machine saw, obviously. So it's very easy for me to create a thing like this. It's been great fun, really, really great fun. Meow, I have a cat coming. I hear him around. Well, the last beautiful days in September, so it seems. Meow. So what do I spend my time with right now? Well, there are a few things. We have one specific thing in mind, me and the kids, for today. Here he is, Såsen, the cat. And for today we are going to harvest all the corn. We had frost the other week, and corn, the dahlias, the squashes, tomatoes, peppers, and a few other things got damaged, and well, they don't grow anymore. So here are a squash. I didn't expect the frost that week, so I was a bit surprised. But as you can see, this is like, it's very much fall in Sweden right now, and I still have plenty of vegetables, a lot of lettuce, spinach, and also the Chinese cabbage. I've got a few caterpillars, but in Sweden we have enough light for things to grow at least in the beginning of until the beginning of November. So even though it looks a bit sad, I mean, these are the outer leaves, and the inner leaves will be fine, and the Chinese cabbage. So I am not that like afraid of we will not have enough food. And I should also tell you that this is my home garden, right? And in March last year, I bought a cottage. It's exactly 3 kilometers away from here, so I go to that cottage for work. And I also created a new vegetable garden by that house. So I have a little cottage garden with flowers, lots of flowers this year, and also a lot of vegetables. So I thought I could show you that garden in a live stream maybe next week. So I have not only like vegetables for the household in this garden, I have another garden as well. And in that direction, a few hundred meters away, we have, well, it's like a very, very small farm, an area where we grow potatoes and onions together with the neighbors. So I have a lot of food, and it's really nice because when I bought the cottage and also started to grow together with the neighbors, I somehow felt that the pressure in this garden, well, I lost some of it. So I'm not like forced to grow everything that we need in this garden. I could do it also in other gardens. So that's very good. Sorry about the voice. But what I do in my garden here, this is Skillnadens trädgård, Sara's kitchen garden, is that I try to grow, well, basically every green thing that we want to eat, like vegetables. So we don't want to buy any vegetables in the stores, even though it's winter. So I try to grow as much as possible, and I have succeeded with that for the last, I think it's like 7 years. And this is the 10th season in my garden. So this is Sweden, and I grow basically all the vegetables that we need. And I am the mother of 4 and I work at the same time, so it's well, it was kind of amazing. It's working actually. If I should mention some of the things I have right now, well, you saw the lettuce, of course. I have some parsley in here. Beetroots. Hello, Jasir from Turkey as well. Nice to see you. So I have plenty of beetroots. They go along with the asparagus and oh my God, it's not garlic. It's well, you know this. I forgot the name. Silly me. Well, the onion, chives. Thank you, Cynthia. Chives, beetroot. This is the black salsify. I have plenty of winter carrots, and in Sweden we grow winter carrots and we grow summer carrots. And I'll go show you. The summer carrots are very tiny and they don't store very well. So that's why we, in cold climate, we need to be very careful when we choose the varieties. Yes, she does everything. You are crazy. But so this is a winter carrot, and this is, as you see, a larger variety. I have forgotten the name for this. But they grow slowly, and they can stand very long in the well, in the beds before I harvest, and they stand cold very well, and I can store them in a clamp, for example, in the soil all winter longs. So that's very good, and I have plenty of them, as you can see. Zoop. Really nice. And carrots are, of course, a very important vegetable in a family with 4 kids. I have a thing that I do. I have told myself I need to kill all the slugs that I see. So when not having some kind of tool, I simply, well, stand on it. Pea sprouts. And here's the corn. I had, oh my God, what is that name? It's like this very old traditional pea. In Swedish we call it like grey pea, but I know it has another name because I have written a recipe on this website. I simply forgot it. A traditional pea that grew very tall, and it simply fell over and sort of crushed all the leek and the celeriac. I have plenty of peas, but not that much leek for this season. And here you can see the corn and how it's damaged from the frost. But I left, and that was a very good choice, I left the corn on the plants, here someone have eaten, to just ripen just a few more days in the sun, because we have had very, very good weather. So even though the plants are damaged, the corn is just amazing. And this is what we are going to, I can just show you. I mean, this is actually Sweden, you know, so it is amazing that you can actually grow this nice vegetables in Sweden. I think corn is one of the most, I don't know, amazing vegetable to grow in a climate like this, because the plants simply stand for themselves all summer long. I cultivate them, pre-cultivate them and plant out in a mulched. Bye Otto, hey Dora. This is my oldest son who is going to the school bus. His bike is broken. So I plant them out in a mulch bed. Here you can see the bed. Whoops, another slug. And you see I don't have that much weeds in here compared to this bed where I have no mulch. Simply because I couldn't find the space in between those very crazy and large piece. But here I have this bed, and it's covered now with grass clippings and wool, right? And here's the soil, and it's still damp. I didn't water here for a very long time, so no weeds and healthy soil underneath. So I simply didn't do anything with it for the whole season. I just plant it and harvest. All right, so now you have seen some parts. I am very happy with my garden this year, even though I was very surprised by the slugs. They damaged a whole lot of vegetables and made it not very easy to garden. I had to make like sowings of carrots over and over again, and I had to sow, well, some things I did not sow in this home garden. I pretty much chose to grow it in my cottage garden instead. So for you guys who just recently joined us, this is my home garden, and I am Sara, and I grow this garden in south of Sweden. And if you are interested in learning more and get inspiration for your own garden, you are very welcome to join me at sarabackmo.com. That's my garden blog where I share my gardening life. And for today, I wanted to say something about how I run this garden. I grow about 500 square meters in my garden, growing vegetables to harvest all year round in Sweden. This is a cold climate, and I am the only one in my family interested in gardening. And it is sometimes very difficult because I can't find the time. I am also the mother of 4 wonderful children. I work like 75%, and the rest of the time I try to take care of the house. I also garden a lot and taking care of the kids. Our youngest recently started in preschool. He is 4 years old, and all our children have been home until they are 4 years old. So having this garden, it sort of forces me to garden, I think, in a very clever way, because otherwise I would be so tired. So, well, maybe I don't want to continue gardening if I feel that it's like too much work and too heavy work and etc. So I run this garden without digging anything. It's not a traditional no-dig garden. I, of course, follow and read much about no-dig, but I can't implement it in my own garden. So what you see here is a no-dig garden, but a deep mulched no-dig garden, like the Sara way. And what is that? Well, a traditional no-dig garden builds on a thing that you have like compost heaps, where you decompose your material and transport the compost, the finished compost, to your garden and put layers with compost on top of the garden beds all the time to sort of feed it with new and healthy soil. By then you don't have to dig the garden because the worms and the microorganisms will take care of that. But what I do in my garden is that I mulch my garden with plenty, and I really mean plenty, of organic materials. So I don't want to transport my organic waste, so to say, from the garden, not a single meter more than I have to. Why is that? Well, each and every transport that I have to make will take time, and I don't have much time. I want to spend the time in my garden. And it also shows that when things like are decomposed in a compost heap. A lot of good, well, let's say nutritions and things, I don't know the correct words, but are sort of released from the materials when it is decomposed. And when those things are released, it will go down to in the ground, right? And I mean, if I have my compost heap in the back of the garden in a shady place where I don't grow anything, I will not have the benefit from that process, right? Oh, our dog is awake and he's barking at the cows. So what I do instead is that I put all the organic waste from my kitchen garden on top of the soil, pretty much where I grow the things. So I don't carry around things in my garden. I put it, and this is so good. I think everyone should do this. So I put it, as you see, on top of the ground in rows where I have my garden beds, and I have a system for this. This is the area by the stone wall where I am going to grow the Brassicas next year in some of the beds. So my system is that when I harvest things in the garden, I collect the organic materials, the plant waste, plant parts, and I put it on a heap or whatever until I have the space, the area to mulch. And then I put it on top of the garden beds where I am going to grow the very sort of hungry plants next year. So in this bed I am planning to grow like cabbage with pointed head or brassicas, broccoli next year. So on top of it I can show you. And this is how it looks like right now. And this is some kind of straw or silage that I used last year. Under this I have wool. So you see, this is a very thick layer, maybe it's nearly 30 centimeters. And we have very dry. Bye bye Viggo, hey då, I love you. Next son going to the school bus. But I have very, very good soil in here. I never dig those beds. It's kind of dry right now because I didn't water and we didn't have any rain for nearly a month, I think. And this will change during winter. So I simply put things on top, building this raised bed only with organic materials, and this is grass clippings that I get from my neighbors, and I'm also going to the church to get me lots and lots of grass clippings as well. So what I do right now in my garden is that I harvest things, and I then take care not only of the vegetables, I also care for the plant materials, and I use it as mulch in my garden. And to me, I mean, all the things growing in my garden is potentially dirt that I can use in the garden. I just have to decompose it first, and I choose to do it not in a compost heap in the backyard. I choose to do it in this front yard where I grow my vegetables, in the nicest place in the whole garden, because this is so valuable to me. And what this makes is that hey Alex. So what this makes is that when I put the materials on top of the ground, it attracts the worms, right? So this is a place where I have grown brassicas this year. It is a lot of plant materials from, well, years back. On top of the ground I have wool, I have grass clippings, I have leaves, I have like fresh horse manure that I got in winter. no grass clippings here, and I plant my brassicas directly into this material simply by making a little hole. I can show you. Let's say here I want to plant something. I simply remove some of it, some roots from the cabbage. So, and I put my little plant in here, and I put some extra compost in the hole. Yeah, like that. And here's my planting. And when the plant grows bigger, I put the organic materials just around the plant, and it will grow in this. In the beginning, I thought that this way of gardening looked a bit messy, so to say. I found an inspiring man called Börje Remstam in Sweden who practiced this. You may call it a root stout garden, because root stout was a wonderful woman practicing this in some way, and she was kind of the first who did it and started to teach others about it. But in most parts of the world, I think you use like straw and things like that. But I really do like this way of thinking that, like for the corn, for example, when I have harvested this, I cut down the plant and I will use the entire stems in the garden as well, even though they are very thick. So what I do with the thick parts is that I put it not on top of the garden beds, I put it in between the beds. So this is also an area where I'm going to grow the brassicas. And over the winter, we will have winter now in Sweden in let's say October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So I may plant my brassicas in here in May, and it's in 8 months. And in 8 months, this will sort of press down, and the worms and the microorganisms will have, well, turned some of it into soil already. So I then make like a, well, it's like a compost in between here. Zoop. So I don't have to transport or make anything with those stems. I feed the ground all the time with my organic materials. And when the plants are planted in here, it will look absolutely beautiful. And I do it the same way. Here are the peas. Here are flowering black salsify. It will be very easy in 8 months, I can tell you, but simply make a little hole. And in here I can reach, I can even dig this ground with my fingers. And I will plant directly into the ground or in a hole where I put some extra soil. Very, very easy. And this is very good in areas where I plant things. So this is why I will need a new little greenhouse in the garden. You know, I pre-cultivate most of the plants, but of course, like carrots and black salsify and parsnips and some of the things like lettuce that I sow directly into the grounds, I need to have like free bare soil. I can't have this kind of bed. So already by now I chose what kind of beds I will mulch and what beds I will have with a bare, well, a bare ground. Cynthia asked me, what about weeds and their seeds? Thank you, Cynthia. I pretty much use all of it, and there, I don't know how to explain that, because the weeds I have, I am not very good in weeds names in English, unfortunately, but this is a common weed, and it's terrible simply because it will flower and turn into seeds in just a few days. You give me the name of this. So this I have in parts where I am not that careful weeding, unfortunately. And since I am the mother of four, I don't always have time for weeding. But as you can see, I mean, in most parts, this is a place where I did not weed at all. And I didn't mulch this part this year either. And as you can see, I did not cover my Brussels sprouts. So I don't have any Brussels sprouts this year. But it's not that much. This is the weeds I was showing you. And this is perennial weeds that comes from the area outside my garden. And they have very long and extremely deep roots. So I can't get rid of it. I can only tire it by simply weeding. And I do that where I think it's needed. But in other parts of the garden, I mean, this could be worse. I can show you, here is a part that I didn't weed at all this year. And this is where I grow blueberries, not covered with anything. Mulched or no, I have no ground fabric. And you see the difference. Lots and lots of weeds. Here are honeyberries, bushes. And then compared to this space where I mulched the garden. So I think I save time, not only by having less weeds, but also, as I said, time where I have to transport or not transporting things between different places. And also, I mean, the fact that I never dig my garden. The only thing I do is I put layers of organic materials on top of the soil all the time. No digging. I never dig in fall. In traditional gardening in Sweden, you dig in fall and you dig in spring. So you turn, you use this fork and prepare the ground. And I never do that. I don't have it in my system. Like, I could do it sometimes if I think it's needed because of something, but it's not in routine to work with a fork or with a spade or whatever to prepare the ground. And I never order like tons of manure, for example. Someone counted, I don't know exactly how, but this is one of my favorite things to tell people when I have classes about gardening. I do that regularly, not when it's COVID time, but otherwise. All right, so I will try to tell you in a correct way. If you imagine 1 square meter of mulched garden bed, 1 square meter. In that square meter, you will probably find about 500 to 1,000 worms, right? Many worms in that area in the ground, and they live not deep in the ground because these are like the compost worms. I don't exactly know the name of the wrigglers. Anyhow, you will find them up in the surface because they live in the surface, eating dead material. So in a traditionally cared for soil, you will probably find 10 to 100 worms. But in a mulched garden, 1 square meter, you will find 500 to 1,000 worms. Why is that important to have all those worms? Well, it's said that one single worm will poo and produce manure, half a gram each. So one worm will poo half a gram warm compost into the ground directly where I am going to grow my vegetables each and every day, right? 0.5 gram per worm each day when it's warm enough in the ground. In an area like mine where I grow, like in this area I grow 350 square meters, I once counted that I will get like 38 tons, I mean tons, of manure from the worms if I care for them, if I feed them by mulching my garden. And this is not happening when you have a compost heap to transport your garden waste into that compost heap in the back of the garden and then transport it in here, because decomposed garden waste is not food for the worms. So you lose that activity and all the benefits that you will have from the worms. So instead I feed the worms. I can feed the worms with old hay, with grass clippings, with leaves, and with the carrot leaves, and with the corn stems, whatever. The point is that I feed the worms and I get a lot of manure in return. So that's what's really happening in my garden all the time. Some dog is getting crazy, mine too. I think they are hunting in the woods, maybe. And I am getting so excited of this mulched garden. It's really amazing, and you will find a lot more to read about that in my garden blog at sarabackmo.com if you search for like mulched garden. You will follow me around here to see Kuling, our Newfoundland dog. He wants to be out in the forest too. Hey, hey gubben. God morgon. Can't buy out in the forest along with the other ones. Kuling is our Newfoundland dog. He is 5 years old. Beautiful dog. He is about, I think, he's grown a bit now. He was a bit tiny a year ago. I think you may be like 63 kilos or something like that. It is definitely more than I am, but he's so kind, and means such a nice dog for the kids, and very interested in what's happening. Well, my friends, this was just a short hello from my garden and the greenhouse, and I hope you stop by now sarabackmo.com to see the last updates from the garden and the greenhouse. And I'll see you in my cottage garden in next week maybe. I can show you what I have done and created in that space too. Have a lovely day or good night, depending on where you are. See you in a short while. Bye bye all of you.